so much to today's burst of innovation. So as we get into today's, which is overcoming your lizard brain, that thing that holds you back, that thing that keeps you from sharing that big idea, that thing that tells you you're not worthy or not good enough. I want to thank Mary T, one of our community members, our everyday innovators, and a certified IQE coach for bringing me this topic. She had emailed and asked if I would cover this again. And I'm so glad that you did, Mary T. It's so relevant. And I was just in Orlando speaking, and this was the thing that really stuck with people, was all around this lizard brain and how to get over it. So I'm going to dig in that today. Now, just as a reminder for all of us, this is a 10-minute burst of innovation. We do these free every Monday because we want to get out the important stuff to you so that you can be that everyday innovator that innovates and influences and makes an impact. So if you're on Zoom with us, awesome. I'll see you in the chat bar. If you're on LinkedIn or Facebook or anywhere else, I can't see it all at once, but I will go back and look at your comments. So make sure to put your thoughts in the comments section there. I would love to see them. All right, we got some exciting stuff happening over here at Launch Street, but I'm going to get into that another time, maybe next week, because I want to get into today's content, how to overcome your lizard brain. And here's the reason, by the way, this is so important. I want you to think of your lizard brain, that primal brain of yours, almost as a stage gate. And you got to get through that stage gate to get to the higher thinking, the innovation, the strategic thinking, the creative problem solving. And that lizard brain can often get in the way. So what I want to do today is talk to you a little bit about how that lizard brain works. And I want to give you some very practical tools to overcome your lizard brain. What I have found is that when we push through that lizard brain, we actually are able to be incredible everyday innovators in everything that we do, because that voice in your head gets quieted a little bit. Let me go to my screen and I'll show you exactly what I mean. All right, by the way, as we're doing this, if you have questions or comments, put them in the chat bar. If you have ahas or insights, put them in the chat bar. Here's the thing I always tell everybody. So I sound like a broken record here, but this works because it's not just my brilliance, but it's yours too. So if you have an aha or something that really spoke to you or a way that you think about this, I want you to put that in the chat bar as well. All right, let's dig into the lizard brain. So here's what I want to do. I want to share with you just a little bit of the science of what's happening in your brain so that you understand it. I think in understanding it, you'll be able to overcome it. So we have these two other things I'm going to highlight very quickly and then focus on the lizard brain. The things we have is something, first of all, this brick wall, the reticular activating system, the RAS. I call it a brick wall because its job is to validate what we already believe, meaning to let in through the keyhole what we already believe, but ignore or keep out what doesn't match. So think about this for a second. If we've got this big brick wall and we're trying to innovate, which is thinking differently, right? That brick wall sometimes stops us from doing that. And these tricks I'm about to give you for the lizard brain work for the brick wall as well. The second thing we have is something called myelin and something called the myelin effect. Now, myelin is like a tissue that goes over our wiring in our brains. Think of it as what makes you hyper efficient, right? It's improved skill and task. It's what also, though, keeps us stuck in repetitive thinking and tracks. So myelin is great for super efficiency, so the things that we need to do and do well, but not always great for innovation because we need to jump to new tracks. Remember, innovation in the brain, the system in the brain is like loosely connected side roads. But the thing that we are mostly here to talk about today is the lizard brain. And the lizard brain is your primal brain. It's very reactive, right? It is very primal, and its job is to keep you safe and comfortable, right? It's the resistance that you feel. It's the negative chatter in your brain of, don't do it. It'll never work. They'll never go for it. You're not worthy, right? All the things. We all have the things that our lizard brain said. So mine always says to me, here's my thing. And by the way, put in the chat part what yours says to you. We all have a default kind of track that our lizard brain likes to go to. So my lizard brain likes to say things like, well, why would it be you? Luck never happens to you. Like things don't ever go easy for you, which actually becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of things becoming harder. Or it'll say, well, you're not worthy. Like you don't know what you're talking about compared to these people. The lizard brain, it's primal. Now, here's the thing. Right? Back in the day when we lived more tribal and we were more nomads, it was great because the lizard brain wanted to keep us safe and comfortable. Well, if there's a fire coming or a saber-toothed tiger in the bushes or a threat in the land, like it's drying up and we're not going to get our crops, like that lizard brain is good, keep us safe and comfortable. But in today's modern world, it actually works against us. And it actually shows up in very insidious ways that I want to show you. It shows up in fight, flight, or freeze. Now, we often think of fight, flight, or freeze as things that are very extreme, right? Like someone jumps out at us from an alleyway at night, or like someone makes us really angry by saying something really mean to us. That's often how we think about these things. But here's what I'm finding in traveling the globe, talking to people, and in my research. What's happening right now is because of the sustained level of stress that we're all living under, fight, flight, or freeze is becoming our default. It's becoming our go-to. And we don't even realize it. And the people that we're trying to get buy-in for ideas, it's becoming their default and their go-to as well. So fight shows up as like, well, that'll never work, right? It's that instant battle of an idea. And sometimes it's on your own ideas, by the way. If it's in your own head, you're over there like, oh, here's an idea. Oh, that'll never work. Never mind. We do it to ourselves. So this isn't just what we say to other people. This is what we say to ourselves as well. But we can't, right? Oh, well, I can't possibly say that. It won't get taken well. Here's 10 things that are wrong with it. Like the minute you come up with an innovative idea, or if you feel bold enough to go do something, what happens? You start chipping yourself away, right? Here's the 10 things reasons why I can't do this and why it's wrong. The second one is flight, right? And flight is running away. And that's your brain like, we'll get back to that later. Procrastination often lives in flight. Let me say that again because I think it's so important. Procrastination often lives in flight because that's us avoiding something, right? Or just going along with something is another way to look at it. I think it's a really important point to remember that procrastination lives in flight. And by the way, I just want to say, just full transparency, I wasn't going to share this because you saw my hesitation there. I definitely live there. I can very easily procrastinate and not deal with something and come up with a million reasons why. But what I'm really doing is flight, right? I'm fleeing away from the challenging thing I have to tackle. So I've worked really hard to get over that. Or freeze, right? And freeze is where you just go to gobbledygook, where your brain turns to scrambled eggs. And if you're in a conversation and you feel really nervous, maybe your heartbeat goes up a little bit and you start to sweat. So we all have a go-to. So my question for you is, what's your go-to, right? I think I always thought I was fight, but now that we're having this conversation, I think I might be a little bit of flight, not fight, because procrastination is my go-to when I don't want to deal. And I think definitely during 2020, 2021, I found I was procrastinating more because of exactly this, right? My lizard brain was starting to take over. We cannot allow the lizard brain to take over. All right, so let me give you a couple ways how to get over your lizard brain so that you can lead. And this is regardless of your title, your authority. I feel important to put that in there because we often think of it as like, oh, I can only get over this type of stuff if I've had a certain experience or certain title or a certain level. Not true. This is for all of us. So here's a couple tricks to get over your lizard brain. Number one, name your lizard brain. Okay, so it's called disassociation. And what research has shown is that when we disassociate with our lizard brain, like create a little bit of a gap between us, we are more able to overcome it, get over it, deal with it. So I like to think of it this way. When I name my lizard brain, it takes him out of the driver's seat, like out of being me, and it puts him into the passenger seat. So my lizard brain may still be there, but now he's a passenger, someone that I can actually have a conversation with and manage versus just something that controls me. So name your lizard brain. Now, those of you who have been with me for a while, you know the name of my lizard brain, Bernard. And Bernard and I have very lengthy conversations. And sometimes I need to tell Bernard to just flat out shut up. But other times, what I have found is a great way to overcome the lizard brain is to ask him questions. That's number two. So let me give you two examples of that. One just kind of with myself and one in a meeting. I'm going to start with the meeting. So I'm in a meeting and the person on the other side of the table asked me what I perceived to be a very challenging question. So I got all riled up and I got defensive and I went into fight mode on that one and was like, well, that's not right because fill in the blank. And I took a step back. The conversation kind of went to another place. And as I was sitting there, I thought to myself, all right, Bernard, why are we getting so riled up about Greg's question? Like, why does Greg's question bother us so much? And Bernard answered back, well, because you feel like he's challenging your authority. It wasn't even the question. Your insecurity bubbled up because you're afraid that because you don't have the answer to that question, right, you're going to look like an idiot or less, or you're going to look more inferior. So I like to ask my lizard brain questions. And when I realized that, by the way, I was able to come back to the conversation with Greg and actually have a meaningful conversation about his question, which actually led to a better solution in the end. Sometimes we got to ask Bernard, like, hey, Bernard, why are you feeling like this? Like, what's really going on? And you know it, don't you? You know those moments where you're getting riled up, but you really know it's because of something in you, not something in the person who you're talking to or something in the idea that you just thought of. The other day, I was sitting on the plane, and Orlando to Denver is very long, so I had a lot of time to think. We didn't have Wi-Fi either on the plane. I know the horror. And so I'm sitting there taking notes and doodling and kind of thinking of ideas. And the minute I came up with this one idea that I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what I need to solve this problem, my lizard brain kicked in and Bernard's like, nope, that's not going to happen. And I stopped for a minute. I was like, what is going on here? And I was like, in my head, I was like, Bernard, why are you shutting this idea down so fast? Like, we were all excited about it a minute ago. And as I sat and thought about it, what I realized is because it would mean there's going to be some work that's going to go into changing some things on our website, changing some things in our backend and our membership. Like, it created the idea was brilliant, but it created a trickle out of work that was going to have to get done. And the lizard brain didn't like that, right? It doesn't want to do new work and challenging things. Bernard wants to stay comfortable in what it's doing now. And this would require change. And that's why Bernard got riled up. So name it, talk to it. All right, the third one is, and this one's really important too, take 3 deep breaths. Here's the thing. Stress, that fight, flight, or freeze that we're all dealing with, actually lives in our nervous system. And it keeps us like, it's up here, right? It keeps us in sustained stress. So the lizard brain takes over, and is taking over. It becomes our default, as I said. 3 deep breaths gives our nervous system a chance to calm down, which gives our lizard brain a chance to calm down. And it moves us out of fight, flight, or freeze and into a calmer, more centered state. And it taps the deeper parts of us, right? The more innovative mind, the creative side, getting into a state of flow. All of that comes after taking 3 deep breaths. I would encourage you, after you listen to this, to actually go. And just before you get your work done, just take a stop and take 3 deep breaths. You will be amazed at the difference. Amazed. Sometimes you just got to walk away, take a couple breaths, come back to a conversation. Sometimes you got to walk away from your email. Like when you get that email that riles you up, don't respond. Talk to Bernard. Actually, I would do it backwards. I would take 3 deep breaths. I would say, hey, Bernard, and then I would ask him some questions. What is it about this email that's getting me riled up? That'll get you to a whole different place. Now, the last one, number 4 here, is tell me more. So we don't have time to go into the whole story. It's actually a really powerful one. But here's what I'm saying. When you can't have 3 deep breaths, meaning you and I are on a conference call and there's other people on it and you've riled me up, or I'm in fight, flight, or freeze, or I'm responding in a way that like, I don't even want to see myself respond. I'm letting my lizard brain take over and I'm the one riling other people up. When someone asks you a question or when you think you know the answer, I want you to stop and go, that's interesting. Tell me more. Tell me more gives you a chance to breathe and the person on the other side of the table a chance to breathe. It gives everybody a chance to go a little bit deeper and get off that surface where Bernard is playing. All right, so we've covered a lot here. I want to go back real quick. We've talked about what's happening in your brain, right? With the reticular activating system, myelin, lizard brain. We've talked about how this modern stress shows up in the world to ourselves and to those around us in fight, flight, or freeze. And we've talked about some tools to overcome it regardless of who you are, where you are in your work, career, and life. So my question to you is, what aha did you get out of this? What did you take away from this that you're going to do? What new learning? Put that in the comment section, put it in the chat bar right now. I want to see those. I want to know what you're getting out of it so that I can share that with your fellow everyday innovators. It is so important, especially right now, that we manage our lizard brains and that we get it under control. Like I said, our lizard brain for many of us is becoming our default mode. And that's the last thing that we want, right? We want the lizard brain to be there. We can't get rid of it. Here's the thing. That's why I'll never tell you to be fearless, by the way. In fact, here's that slide. You can't be fearless, but you can push through, conquer, and harness fear. And managing your lizard brain is the way to do that. He will always, or she will always be there. It's hardwired into us. But what we can do is manage it, maybe even harness it to push us forward. In fact, I've gotten into a little game with my lizard brain where it's like, you can't do it. I'm like, oh yeah, let me show it to you, Bernard. So the whole key here is we push through it, we conquer it, and we harness it. All right, so Mary T says, take 3 breaths and ask, tell me more when challenged by others. Yes. So I love tell me more when I'm challenged by others, which happens all the time, by the way, because it gives me a chance to calm down, get my scrambled brain back in order. But also the person on the other side of the table tells me more. And so I really have a deep understanding of what they're even asking or saying. Sometimes I think we assume bad intent when we don't even know intent. All right, Carolyn says, great reminders. My lizard brain has been very persistent lately. Yeah, Carolyn, that's exactly it. I think all of us are just in a state of having to deal more with our lizard brain. And the key is to not let it take over. Good. Okay. Awesome. Jeff says he's going to start talking to his lizard brain more just to internally. Haha. Yeah, right. On the airplane, I didn't exactly say it out loud, but man, does it make a difference just to give yourself a second. It's so powerful. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. And like I said, hey, if you've got a topic that you want, like Mary T had, then email us. You know where to find us, and let me know, or DM me in one of the platforms that we're on. We'd love to hear about what you want to hear about to be the rock star everyday innovator that you're meant to be. See you next time.